created to have some fun together, sharing and singing. So, join and enjoy.
Our love for opera brings us together. Thanks for being with us in this trip.
Hi everyone! Welcome to our second episode of Spectacular Singing. Today we are gonna share something from Manon Lescaut.
Manon Lescaut from Puccini? Why are we having Manon Lescaut from Puccini? That is such a drama, you know. Sola perdo. No?
No. No.
But Manon sings Sola perduta abbandonata and the duet tu amore tu. So what is it?
Of course it exists, but no, try again.
There is another Manon. It is not Manon Lescaut. There is a Manon by Maestro Massenet, and they have a great duet. They have the No vibranza Paris tu les deux et no cœur. No, neither that
No,
one.
not either. No.
But you said that we are having Manon Lescaut today. Those are the only two Manon Lescauts, right? Not right?
Oh no, I have a surprise.
What is that? Share that as a surprise with us. Remember that sopranos are the only human beings in this on this earth that are able to build an aria out of laughing. This is the second episode of Spectacular Singing, and this is the second time that the soprano is going to tell us a complete aria around laughing. The first episode was around Mein Herr Marquis from Die Fledermaus, and today we're having, it is true, our improvisation of the opening, it is true. Very few people know that there are three Manon Lescaut based on the Abba Prévost play. It is Puccini's, Massenet's, and in this case, Auber. They are the three composers who wrote around the same topic. However, this one that we are having today, it's hilarious. It's not the super drama of I am going to die in the desert, sola, perduta, abbandonata, in landa desolata, or the elegant with the gavotte and taran, tan, tan, tararara. Not that one either, but a super funny Manon that is going to be laughing, laughing today. Last episode, sorry, Katia shared with us that um, singing or laughing is super easy. So we are going to,
If you are a light soprano, it
if you're a
is.
light soprano, because if you're
Same
a
thing.
bass, you sound exactly like Fausto. Ha 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 ha. So that would be more the type of laughing that other tesituras would have. And the tenors are not good at laughing. In fact, I cannot think of any aria where the tenor laughs.
Because tenors are not happy people.
Yeah, most of the time they're not. If they are not fighting for the love of the soprano and having a fight with the baritone or running away and escaping from their fathers, who is a bass, they are pretty much that's the kind of life tenors have in most operas. Maybe that's why. So, having said that, we are having this piece, this super fun. I have to confess that this is one of my favorite soprano coloratura arias because there is a charm in it, and I love it from the opening, not only with the music, ta-ra-ta-ta-ta-ta-ran, ta-ra-ta, which, by the way, it's going to be the same theme that the soprano is going to develop later, but even from the opening. Because we have shared also in the previous episodes that the opening always matters. You cannot just throw a phrase being Musetta. You cannot just throw a phrase being any other character. It is the same case because if you don't open funny, the first phrase, c'est l'histoire amoureuse, in the intention, then everything is death. You have to catch the attention of people from the very first phrase because Manon is telling us I'm going to tell you a story of love. And people like gossiping, and the whole area is about gossiping. I will tell you who. No, 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 no. I will not tell you who. I will not tell you who. Ta-da-da-da-da. So that's pretty much what it is going to be about. But it is funny because try to picture a number of people are a number to picture in your minds a number of people around the soprano and the soprano in the middle catching the attention and saying, "C'est l'histoire amoureuse," going to tell you a story of love, and everybody, yes, yes, yes. Who is that? Who? How here? Because
Do you want
gossiping.
to know the name? Well, I will not tell you.
Which, by the way, we are going to get there, but which, by the way, reminds me of Oscar. Oscar Loza, but he won't tell either. So um, I wouldn't be surprised that more than one people can compare this part of the text between Oscar from I just happen to forget the name of the
Un
opera.
ballo in
Un ballo
maschera.
in maschera, of course, from Un ballo in maschera, and this expression in the piece created by Maestro Auber. But let's get started. C'est l'histoire amoureuse autant que fabuleuse. Even though it is c'est l'histoire amoureuse. Last time we said I usually like to call it pause, and I know that it is a silence in musical terms, but for people who don't read music, a silence between music, it's like contradictory because music is the opposition of. So that's why I will be still calling it a pause, even though I know that it is not a pause. So, c'est l'histoire amoureuse, pause, autant que fabuleuse. They are two phrases, but they are deeply connected because that's how this gossiping is going to start. And you also have to play with the intention. C'est l'histoire amoureuse, autant que fabuleuse. And people, what? 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 Do you have a piece of advice for this opening of C'est l'histoire amoureuse?
Oh my God. Well, in this case, Manon, it's not a rock star, but she is trying to earn money through this story, through telling this story. So you have to be charming. You are the focus, not just because you love attention, because sopranos love attention, but
We know,
we
we
are
know, we
talking
know.
we were talking about my T-shirt,
Yeah.
which I'm gonna show you later. Um, but she's trying to earn money for paying a debt, so she has to make it very well. Try to create this thrilled atmosphere. Your first phrase it's gonna be probably the most important part. Not the high note. It is important, of course. Every note written it's important, but the first strike you have to cock the eye, or you will not make it later.
Yeah, because right after Autant que fabuloso, Don Galan Fiera. But the Galan Fiera it's cut in between the opening and the first time that we are going to listen to this motif of laughing. We will stop more in the laughing, but notice that c'est l'histoire amoureuse, c'est l'histoire amoureuse, autant que fabuloso. Before the Dangalan Fiera, because it is in between. It's not that it doesn't matter, but it plays sort of a transition. Dalangan Fiera, immediately Dangalan Fiera, so Dangalan Fiera, which sort of means of a man, of a boy who is so well paid of himself. I immediately thought of l'Elisir d'Amore, you know, the the role of the baritone, who is supposed to be detestable, but it's this is the kind of guy that is described here. The longer Fiera Bram. Now we can stop for the first time because the soprano does it. I didn't even count how many times she's pretending to love. Yeah, And we have, remember that I am putting it on the screen, but since I am reading it to my right on the printed score, sometimes things may not work and I might be reading something different to what it's on the screen. And I think that is the case because the first laughing is here. Um, there is a there is something that I wanted to have this conversation with you because we are going to discuss it also when we talk about the Queen of the Night. Because when people listen to this series of short notes, sometimes super high notes, as it is the case of the Queen of the Night, this is not the case of super high notes. This is pretty well handleable. But we're what I wanted to talk about is the precision of these short notes, which is very easy with the this. Let's try to. I'm going to try to explain you, and then you please correct my explanation. You have a column of air that, if it is not interrupted, it is a continuous sound. Oh no! For instance, you say oh, any note that you choose, that is just your air. Oh, continuous. But these are not, or this is a continuous column nerve, but it has an occlusion. It's being blocked internally, and that's how you achieve these notes. It is very easy when we do it physically with our own body. For instance, try saying ta 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 every time, since the way we produce the t t t t t implies the blocking of the column, it naturally sounds like the ta 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 ta. But in this case, we do not have a consonant that helps us in achieving that. You have to do it on the same vowel, so you have to work the occlusion and not in a very different way. But it has to be precise. If you have some background in, I know, if not in physics or mechanics, at least think of blocking. It's like closing and opening the faucet of the water like this. Water, no water, water, no water. And it's very precise. Ta, 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 ta. Can you walk us a little through this? That we say it's easy, but technically it's not that easy.
Well, probably it depends on your voice because when you are a coloratura soprano, this kind of things are natural, are part of you. And it can be complicated probably to explain because it's like something that you just do because you can. But it is a challenge to understand the mechanics of how it is working. Probably an example that could help us is when you drive a car and you get to the red light, you don't turn the car off. You just push the brake and just stop, but not stop at all. And then you can go on. So that's the way this line of staccatos could work. You are not cutting the air at all. You are just articulating.
Yeah, articulating. Yeah.
Articulating it. Yes, you are only articulating it. For example, well, I used to practice my staccatos a lot because sometimes I tell my students that probably in a large note you can't arrange it while you are singing. Probably the pitch was not perfect, probably the place of your voice it's not the best, and you can't handle it to make it at the end. But in staccatos, you have to be as an archer. You have just one arrow, and you have to hit the ball in the first strike. So in this case, there are no moves in my throat. If you could see my diaphragm, is not. Because it will be exhausting. I have to sing this phrase at least 6 times. And if I move my diaphragm a lot, I will not make it at the end of the aria. It is too much. It's like jumping on the floor. You will not do this, just you will bounce a little bit. That's the move you need in this kind of race.
And also, it even staccato is in a way opposed to legato, in at least in what we hear. But the two of them share in common that they are done with the same column of breath as Katia just explained. You don't get rid of a breath, breathe, then position again and do the following note. That's contrary. Only you're working on what the sound that is being perceived. That's what I was calling the occlusion, or how blocking the sound that needs to be super very precise, because for people who don't read music, we have these beautiful notes here that I'm going to increase a little here. These are the notes that Katia was mentioning just around the staccato. And notice that they just have one stick, if we can call it like that. We have this one stick here, but later we are going to have the same laughing, and they are going to have two, like two little sticks, which means that they are even shorter. So if you have a regular voice like most of us do, you already know that soprano coloraturas have a super high pitched voice. So there is no way you're planning to do it on your everyday life, I hope, because if you're going to have like that, maybe people are going to think funny things of you. But my message here is that this sound later is even going to be shorter or faster, as you want to see it. So it's going to, from my perspective, become even more challenging. Well, we have, or I have also shared with Katia that sometimes they are written even 32 notes in a bar. I mean, who can possibly say it's 32 notes in a bar? You see, which is just, I don't know. I can't understand composers sometimes. So
Oh,
let's go back to the score and say ta 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 ta, d'entendre commissaire quand la croyait ta ta ta. And the whole aria is composed in a very similar way. Autant que faut dans la fièvre, ta 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 ta, d'entendre commissaire qu'elle le croyait sévère et qui ne l'était pas, ta 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 ta. So it is like these groups of sentences that still have to be very mm, attractive, or that can build curiosity out of people, because people is going to be attracted by the staccatos or by the laughing ta 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 ta. That's natural. You don't have to do anything to attract the interest of people, but you cannot let the attention of the area fall in the other spoken parts, because Manon is looking for money, right? So she has to do it right from the beginning to the end. But I wanted to explain this because you're going to notice that no matter what the words are, the construction is the same. Phrase, 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 and the justification for that, right? And again, phrase, 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 ta 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 again. And there is going to be a little change when she's going to sing them uh, together, but we are going to get there. So, because just to explain that, so she's telling us a story of this guy who is so well paid of himself, d'entendre commissaire. Um, this is in French, so people who speak French really know what commissaire means. It is not the commissario as we know it in the Western, in the old West of the Americans. That is not the same guy. This is more like a bureaucrat, a tender bureaucrat, qu'on le croyait sévère. And one used to think that he was so severe, et qui ne l'était pas. And she's going to laugh because she's going to say, on le croyait sévère, et qui ne l'était pas. Ta 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 ta. You see, that's how the construction. Ta 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 ta. That's pretty much how the blocks are going to be put together. But the story is so funny that even though you know that she's going to laugh, you're still waiting for more and more and more to see what comes to her mind. It's like when you talk about Dulcamara in L'Elisir d'Amore, when he has his aria, where he's udite o rustici, ta-tan, 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 ta-tan. You know that he's just talking nonsense, but nobody cares because it's Dulcamara and you want to have fun with that aria. Pretty much the same case for this one. So, Eki no lete pam, and I think that the series of staccatos are the same, right? Yeah, same notes and same number. Yeah. Il aimait une belle, et il ne voulait, il ne voulait, mais elle ne le voulait pas. So this is the first cruel part. He, this tender bureaucrat, he loved a beautiful woman. Il en voulait, mais elle, que de lui ne voulait pas. So cruel is life because he loved, and look at how she loves in between. Il aime et un bel, and then Katia does the already laughing. She hasn't told you that it is going to break his heart. But by putting the laugh in between the story, you know that. Let me tell you, Fred loves Martha. Ha ha! By the ha ha in between, you know that it's not going to end up well for Fred. The same case here. It is not going to end well for the bureaucrats. So, il aime un bel ha ha, il voulait me elle again ha ha, de lui no voulait pas. And now it is going to change because it is not as staccato, but it is going to be a series of notes, lower notes of the laughing. Now a little more ascending, a little more discreet, which I also think shouldn't be a problem for any soprano. I would expect this would not be. But if I am wrong, please correct me, Katia.
Yeah, probably the highest note here that I have as a D. That's not the problem.
But the intention is the problem.
Yeah.
It has to go with what she has been narrating earlier.
Yeah.
On voulait vous apprendre le nom de ce Léandre, traité comme un Judas. On voulait vous apprendre, and they wanted me to tell you the name of. See, this word Leandre makes reference to, in English we say John Doe, when you have a person whose name is unknown. So that is le nom de ce Leandre, the name of this guy that we're gossiping around, that the woman didn't love him. Ha ha! He wanted her, but she didn't want him. She didn't want him. Ha ha! So she says, on voulez-vous apprendre le nom de ce Léandre, traité comme un Judas? This is just a phrase that is put here because it is rhythmic. It falls naturally. So don't pay attention to why is she calling him a Judas? Does it have to do anything with Christianism and nothing like that. It's
Not
just
at all.
it falls perfectly into the funny story that is being told. Traité comme un Judas. Uh, I'm not sure because this is, even though it is a very lovely piece of music, it is not that often sung by sopranos. I don't know why. Maybe only because they don't know it either, because it's not super difficult. I mean, in this series ahead, we are going to have super difficult arias.
I'm
This
afraid.
then you are
I'm
going to say,
already suffering.
no, Uh, uh,
I will not laugh anymore.
I well, with the Queen of the Night, and we are going to explain it later. The staccatos are not laughing. We were saying, "Oh yeah, she's lovely." The Queen of the Night is anything
Yes.
but a lovely woman. She's to be detested. But I was mentioning it because it has three sets of words. We are going back to the beginning. On l'Odyssée habile Cardan la Ranvilly, les des magistrats, they love ta 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 ta, il est des réverbères, au dingue ta 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 ta. So the second set of words falls perfectly into the construction of the first part. But I mentioned it because I really don't know if when the sopranos sing it on stage, sing the three parts because it's kind of super long, if not difficult. The first part, the repetition with all the words, and now jumping to the final part, I really don't know if they do it complete.
They should.
They should, they really should, but I don't know. So we're going to skip the repetition with the words of the second part and we are going to go because we already mentioned how it's working, right? The laughing, the motif of ha ha, the phrase, then again ha ha, then the phrase ta 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 ta. Because we are going to have the first time when she's going to do it continuously. Son nom vous allez rire, je ne vais pas le dire, je m'en vais vous le dire, which means his name, you're going to break out in laughter. Son nom vous allez rire. Here, she does rire with a jump of the central do to the lower do, but it has a purpose. So la la la, vous savez la rire. You know, it's going to like I'm going to tell you a secret. That's pretty much what she. I'm going to tell you a secret. Hey, secret. That's what it is. That's the purpose of why descending. And again, keep in mind the recommendations that Katia has given you in other episodes, where even if it is this do might be a little difficult. Now it can be difficult for the sopranos, but remember the advice of Katia. You are not supposed to sound like Tosca. So no vous allez rire. This is not going to sound like that. No, that's not the intention because you're going to break the not only the style of the composer, the idea that she's carrying, and the whole idea is hilarious, right? So no vous allez rire, je m'en vais vous le dire. Y ya se los iba a decir. I was just about to tell you the name. Bien va, tu va, tu va. I was about to tell you very low. Tu va. In French, the difference is clear. In Spanish and English, it's not that clear, but it's sort of the same message. I was about to tell you, but very low. So low. So low. No, je ne le dirai pas. And that's when suddenly, because it also slows, bien va, tu va, tu va. Even though the tempo has not changed by adding two silences in between each of the words, the composer has given us the idea that it's like going slow. Je vais vous le dire, bien va, tu vas, tu vas. Again, silence, and then the soprano rushes into no, yo no lo diré, pam, and then Katia goes for a continuous laughter.
No, no, je ne le dirai pas.
But as if you're of the ones who are watching the video on YouTube, then you notice that I haven't passed the page on the screen, but I am going to to put the continuous tra-la-la-la-la-la here. No, yo no lo diré pas. This is the part where the soprano rushes, and the ones that I call pauses or silences are these little guys here These are the silences, the symbols that are here. But if you look for them in the rest of what Katia did, there is nothing, which means which means that for Auber, the sopranos don't breathe. That's what it means.
You're laughing. You don't need air. Oh, yes.
Maybe he thinks that the soprano is going to get the air from her blood, or I don't know. But that will bring us to, even though it is hilarious and continuous, the soprano needs to be very smart in where she's going to breathe, because since it is continuous, ta 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 ta, if people notices that you breathe, ta 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 ta, it's you're going to
No,
break
no,
the
no,
whole
no.
magic. So, what's your advice when the composer again says that you don't have the opportunity to breathe?
Well, there are some teachers that say that you can't ever in your life breathe through your mouth. Exclusively, you have to breathe through your nose. There are some teachers, and I think that I agree. You can breathe through your mouth, but not pulling the air like because that's gonna damage your vocal cords. And if you are singing and you take this kind of breathing, well, it will be disgusting for everybody. And it will be worse if you are singing about laughing. Um, the the best way for me to breathe through your mouth is letting air get into your mouth. You're not gonna pull the air. You're gonna let the air get into your mouth. So if you are and the air is getting into my mouth, but nobody notices. I think that's the best way to breathe
Which
in this
makes
kind of.
it twice as difficult because we explained the staccatos earlier and how you are blocking or working on the occlusion, on a natural occlusion, that you are not in fact shutting down the diaphragm, because it's not going to work if you are shutting down the diaphragm, turning it on, turning it off, turning it down. It's not going to happen that fast. So you have that reserve, as you mentioned,
Yeah,
like bouncing continues there, but you need to recharge the air. So if you see, mechanically speaking, in terms of the air, the physical body that we call air is working in several things. It's being stuck here, but it's being used to produce sound. But as it is being used, it is starting to deplete. But if you run out of air, then something horrible is going to happen in the middle of the laughter. So you have to look for a way to keep adding fuel to the battery of laughing. So your mind not only needs to think, oh, my perfect staccato, my perfect continuous short notes here. How am I going to give them energy so that I keep producing that beautiful sound? Because we haven't mentioned it either, but these short notes also need to sound like very bright.
you're laughing.
Because, and I have seen it many times in lyrical sopranos, you notice when a lyrical soprano is trying to do this, because they have like a very flat, or like a very, if not obscure, at least not a bright color in the notes. Instead of that beautiful ta 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 ta, they sound like ta 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 ta, like, like if you were listening to a pipe of a truck, yeah, yeah, instead ta 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 ta, like continuously pam 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 pam, which is what calls the attention. The way you are throwing the sound, tan 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 tan.
Sing Violetta or sing something else, but sing this
But
particular
forget these
tune.
roles. And I again thought of a very famous Spanish soprano whose name I cannot give, but she always comes to my mind when I think of a lyrical soprano pretending to sing these roles with coloratura, because it really doesn't work. Believe me, it really doesn't work. It didn't work when Callas tried to sing Ambre Légère for Dinora. It really didn't work. It didn't produce that beautiful. bright sound that the natural voices for this, as Edita Gruberova or Beverly Seals or many other famous coloraturas or Dessay, Nathalie Dessay, which have a natural sound for this one. So I am not discouraging sopranos to try these areas because we said that it is healthy that you work on your ornaments. It is always healthy. But if you're going to take it as an exercise, take it as an exercise. But don't by yourself that you are the next Manon from Auber singing this in a concert because it is not going to work. Believe me, it's not going to work. So don't try it that way. But this one is a very good exercise for people working on controlling their air and bringing a nice noise to a nice sound to each of these notes continuously because it forces you to have a well positioned instrument because you will immediately notice if it is not well positioned. That's why I think it's good as an exercise, as for warming up or for many things, not for buying yourself that you're a coloratura soprano. That's not going to work. I also wanted to mention because I did it at the beginning that if you think this is fast, I was telling you that these are the notes with the same duration because they have just one stick. This little voice hears, no, 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 je ne le dirai pas. I will not tell you. I will not tell you. Ta 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 ta. Notice one, but here we have this voice with now two sticks, which means they are half of the value or half of the duration of the guys with one stick. So, because composers think it's not difficult enough that they sing continuously, but we're going to put in between two sounds that are going to be half the length of the others and in fast mode because it's not difficult enough. um, how do you advise? Because I also think that for beginners, so coloratura sopranos, they know they have their voice, but it can be scary that you say, I mean, I'm working on my staccato, but now I have these guys who are half the value of the other, so I have to meet two times in the same amount of time. In the same amount of time, I have to emit two notes, and it still sounds nice. It can be scary. What would be your advice for people who are in the right tessitura for this area?
Well, you have to study in a tempo that feels comfortable for you, where you can feel your pitch as something already safe, already stable, and then you can increase your speed. Pretty important that you work with your air, with your breath. And when you have also so many notes, try to don't feel like it's. I always try to explain it's not a zigzag line. Pa, 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 pa. Try to feel it more like a wave line. Make your line softer. So in this case, um, that will kill you. Try to make it feel closer each note. Float, float, float. That will help a lot.
And thanks for using the word float because that has been also in my mind since last week because I think that for many people it can be difficult to imagine how is my voice floating because singers many times use expressions that for a singer make sense, but for a person who doesn't sing, say, how does your voice float? It makes sense for a singer because say, yeah, if it is floating, you take it from there, ah, da, 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 da. Yeah, just as you explained. So there are since there are way too many things that you need to understand, and if you feel that your teacher, if you're already having singing lessons, if you feel like your teacher is not really helping you out, or you need a deeper conversation on these matters, remember that in our page in Ko-fi, if you go to the shop, you can find that you can schedule 1 hour lessons with Katia, who would jump on a video call with you and help you on any specific problems. If you know this, even though it is a spectacular singing and we are giving somewhere between 30 and 50 minutes to each of the areas. There are too many technical things that cannot be resolved here, and all the human instruments, all the voices work differently. So if you really feel like you would like to do something like this, don't hesitate. Go to our page in Ko-fi and book an hour with Katia, who will gladly support you on any endeavor that you're having for your singing. And also, before I forget, since this is going to be aired in all the platforms, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and reaching the 82 countries. And I was just checking that we are 578 cities. We almost reached 580. I hope it will be happening next week, because as you if you see on the screen, I have the listeners in 572 cities. That was last week. As of today, we have 578. We added 6 cities in just 1 week. So thank you very much for that. It is very difficult for me to keep everything updated every day because of the pace. Thanks everybody for your continued support. But what I wanted to mention you is that I started today. If you go into our channel on YouTube, you will find that I started today, and maybe Kate is joining that one too. Some very, very, very essential understanding on reading music sheets, and also I will be adding some essential, really, really essential vocabulary so that you can understand. Because even though Kathy and I try not to be so technical, there are times that, well, how do you explain staccato without calling it staccato? Beautiful pointy notes, or how are you going to call it? There is no other way to call la legato as a beautiful linked continuous notes or something. So there's why there is a specific terminology from singing. So if you would like to look for them, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcast, Amazon Podcast Index, or anywhere, you would like to jump to our YouTube channel, you will find many more materials than the episodes that you're listening on the podcast. So if you're feeling like it, please go and visit us on YouTube. And we've reached the final part, which is the part that the sopranos prefer because they like laughing, but they want to share a high note. What could be of the life of a soprano if she cannot sing something above a G? Above a G, she hasn't even started.
Indeed.
You say a G? Bah! Who cares about a G? So they are going to they reach this final part that, from my perspective, needs to be a consequence of what you are doing there. If you do it too rushed, too serious, if you add a pause, if you change the intention, it's going to feel like it doesn't fit. It really needs to be like a consequence. You opened properly, c'est l'histoire amoureuse, calling the attention. You have entertained people with your laughing, and people know now that we are approaching the high note. What did you suggest that we ascend as we have on the score, that we ascend and immediately hit a high note, which in this case is a do? I understand that. You suggest that you go higher because
I
a
want
do is also
a
boring.
higher version, of course.
Why stopping at a do when you could go higher, right? That's pretty much the message. So But what is your word of advice? Because I know again that for if you're preparing for this area, and there are, I have to keep my breath, I have to catch. Do I do as Katia suggests that I keep some air in the mouth because I have to continue, and then you're reaching your high note. You're already in a way can arrive exhausted. If not, you can arrive nervous and say, okay, truth is, I really didn't get tired, but I don't feel so sure about how to approach that final note. What is your advice there?
Um, you have to try what kind of approaching fits you the best. Um, if you don't think enough, probably you will not make it in the best way. Probably it will not work. If you overthink, probably you will notice that is a very high note. Probably you will get nervous. Probably you will get lack of air and it will not work. So you have to practice both and check which is the best way for you, where you feel more comfortable and where and how you feel safer.
And as for the duration of the high note, do you suggest anything? Because you know that tenors and sopranos and opera singers like to keep the final note for long, sometimes for too long, or sometimes if the soprano feels uncomfortable with the short note, they do it like we have laughed a lot about it, like a yelling cat, meow, no, instead of a beautiful, like just scratching a note, and the two things are not perceived correctly. What do you suggest in terms of the duration of the final note?
I think I would make it a little bit longer, but not as an entire bar, not that long.
Yeah, the area doesn't justify because if you're coming from too many short, it's like I don't know.
No, 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 no. It doesn't match.
It doesn't match what you've been doing before. Anything else that you would like to add to this super hilarious aria from Manon Lescaut?
Yeah, when we have this kind of songs, this kind of areas, when where you are singing the same motif once and again, please try to give different intentions, because even when it is funny, even when everybody wants to listen the beautiful staccatos and this kind of things, it will get boring if you do it plain and with no variation. So practice to speak your lyrics, your text. Um, and when you are able to express it with words, you will be able to sing it with more intention. So it will be different in every phrase and it will make it more interesting.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, with that being said, thanks everybody for having joined us in this second episode of Spectacular Singing. We will meet here on YouTube for the premiere of the third episode in a month. The second weekend of the month, that's going to be the second weekend of September, we are going to have the third episode. So, be in touch. Thank you.
You can follow our channel for the latest updates and more content. Opera We Love Singing, in just one word. Link in the description of the episode.